Our life was perfect. We lived in a beautiful apartment in one of the most affluent neighborhoods of the city. Joshua even promised me a Mercedes-Benz sedan for my birthday. Everything seemed perfect, but one night, everything changed. My name is Amina, and I'm from Nairobi. I had a crazy encounter where I was constantly haunted by a spirit husband. I know what you're probably thinking right now. There's no such thing as that. Let me tell you, mister, such things are real and very common where I come from. Listen to my story to know how it went. I grew up in the coastal area of Kenya in a small village in a town called Mombasa. If you don't know where that is, don't worry, I got you. It's right around here. Alright, this is not a geography class, so let's move on with the story. Our village was very small. I literally knew every face in the village. Every corner had its memory. Despite its modesty, our village was very beautiful. As I said, it was located near the beach. The waves of the Indian Ocean beat upon the beach with a pleasant swish sound. It was always green, and that mixed with the color of the white sand made the scenery very stunning. Our house was modest too. It was a clay house, and the roof was made from dried palm leaves. Outside our home, my mother, Miss Judy, planted a variety of flowers, further increasing the beauty of our home. Our garden was rich with fruits, especially mangoes. The sweet scent of ripe mangoes blended with the scent of the flowers planted outside our home, making every breath priceless. Okay, let me just take you through a day of my life. Basically, it began like any other normal person, by waking up. Nobody begins their day in any other way. I would wake up to the soft hum of Christian hymns from our living room. My father, Mr. Juma, was very religious and always ensured that we began the day with prayer. Thereafter, it was time for breakfast. My favorite meal was coconut cassava with ginger tea. I also enjoyed chapati with coconut bean stew, but I think chapatis are overrated. I'm just saying.
You need to leave!
I would walk to school barefoot, the morning dew cool against my feet. By then, the village was alive with women's chatter. The chickens were clucking and the goats bleating. On my way to school, I would meet my friends and we would walk along. School is fun except the occasional ass whooping whenever we were in the wrong. School is fun, kids, so go to school. You will definitely enjoy it. We enjoyed playing games like hide and seek. Every rock, every tree, and every stream had its story. My family was the center of my joy. We were a happy family, and I enjoyed every moment. Even though my days were perfect, the same can't be said about the nights. Every night was torturous to me. I would constantly have nightmares of a strange man who always reminded me that I was married to him through an ancient pact. This happened to me since I was 11 years old. I never told anyone about it for fear of being seen as weird. In my teenage years, I decided to see a traditional seer to seek some help. The seer told me that the man wasn't a jealous man and that he would leave when I got married. I therefore saw it as a temporary problem and that it was just a matter of time before he left. I guess then that this is the perfect time to introduce my high school crush, Joshua. He was the smartest boy in our school, the most athletic and the cutest. I don't know how you tick on all of those, but Joshua did. He was also interested in me, the smartest girl in school. Birds of the same breed flock together, right? After our final exams, I was called to do nursing at the University of Nairobi. Joshua got a scholarship to England to study engineering. Before he left, he promised to come back for me and marry me. With bated breath, I waited for him. A little over 4 years later, he came back as he promised. By then, I had completed my nursing degree too. At the time, I still had dreams of this strange man. Even though the dreams were more frequent and the man's presence more tangible, I brushed it off knowing that my Prince Charming Joshua would end all of this after I got married to him. Joshua finally proposed to me at the beach. I can't forget that moment. It was special. Of course, I said yes. I mean, how could I say no? Just look at him. Anyway, here is a comprehensive list of reasons why I said yes, if you really want to know. Our wedding was a traditional one that took place in the village. We went for our honeymoon to a beautiful island called Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania. It was thereafter that we moved to the great city, Nairobi. We both got high-paying job offers and saw it wise to settle there. Our life began well. In fact, the strange spirit seemed to have disappeared. Joshua would pick me from work in the evening in his new Land Cruiser. Thereafter, we would spend the evening watching our favorite channel, exploring relationship dilemmas. It really helped us grow as a young couple. Plus, their videos are really entertaining. Why not subscribe to get entertained too? Our life was perfect. We lived in a beautiful apartment in one of the most affluent neighborhoods of the city. Joshua even promised me a Mercedes-Benz sedan for my birthday. Everything seemed perfect, but one night, everything changed. The next morning when I woke up, I was completely astonished. The spirit husband came to me in my dreams and told me that it was about time that we had a child together. Joshua noticed that I was disturbed, and when he asked me about it, I told him that everything was fine. This went on for a while. Each day the same demands were made by the spirit. 2 months later, when I started vomiting every morning, I was concerned. I tested positive for pregnancy. Joshua was so happy about the pregnancy because we had been working on getting a child for a while. Even though I was worried about the baby potentially being from the spirit, I knew that it could have still been Joshua's child. As months passed and my belly grew, my concern grew with it. It seemed Joshua caught on with it, and one day, he asked me about it. I decided to come clean. I explained everything to him, and he wasn't happy about it. He was so mad that he left the house, and I didn't see him for 2 days. He came back only to say that he couldn't do it. He couldn't stay with me because of my situation. When the day for delivery came, I was rushed to the hospital and I delivered successfully. I looked at the baby and it had Joshua's beautiful eyes. Joshua later turned up, and when he saw me, he looked dismayed, though he seemed to still care about me. He came to my hospital bed and squeezed my hand.
I can't stop thinking about you,
he said. I told him I was willing to even take a paternal test to prove that the child was his. Joshua said it wasn't necessary and vowed to stay by my side. He felt guilty for not being there when I needed him most and apologized.
We'll get through this together,
he said. He was willing to fight for our marriage at all costs. The spirit had to go. Joshua told me that we would have to fight hard to get rid of such spirits. Usually, young men in our village would sit with the elders around the bonfire to be educated about such stories. That's how Joshua knew about it. This was a common practice among the men and boys of our village. It was aimed at preparing young boys for lives as men in future. We had to go back to our village to see a traditional healer. 1 week after the birth of our son, we went back to our village to see the healer. It was an old woman with wrinkles on her face, each wrinkle telling a different story of her vast experience. Her name was Mensa. Such spirits could only be expelled from where they came from, and that's why we had to go back to the village. She performed prayers and intercessions. Through a spell, she spoke to the spirit and they had a long conversation. After their conversation was over, she explained to us the root of all the problems. In the ancient times, it was common for young girls to get married off before they were even born. That's exactly what happened with me. My late grandfather made a pact with a warrior. He told him that he would get his oldest granddaughter before a war if they emerged victorious. They did in fact win the war, and even though it was about 60 years since then, the spirit was persistent to have my hand in marriage because of the pact. The warrior died in War II years later, but he took the pact with him to the grave. I was the eldest granddaughter among all my cousins, and so I was his prize to claim. If you've made it this far, you're probably enjoying the video. Yep, I can see you blushing and smiling, so please give the video a thumbs up for the algorithm. On with the story. I was heartbroken after hearing that. However, Mensa soothed me and told me that it was still possible to get rid of the spirit. She said that such cases were very common and that it wasn't her first. She advised that I perform some prayers that were said to agitate such spirits and chase them out, but I had to do it alone, and it required thorough dedication since it wasn't an easy task. And so it began, constant prayer and meditation. The spirit was very persistent at first, but when I saw what I had with Joshua, I knew it was worth fighting for, even with my life. For 3 months, we went back and forth with the spirit, and at times, it felt like he was too strong for me. I would look at my son's smile and become rejuvenated to fight back harder. After the 3 months of incessant prayer and meditation, his presence began to fade, and this further encouraged me to keep on going. I was getting closer to victory. After some time, the dreams disappeared and his presence wasn't felt. I decided it was time to go see Mensa to hear what she had to say. When we met, she smiled with approval before I even uttered a word. She told me I had finally overcome the spirit and that it would never come back. I was overjoyed on hearing that. Ultimately, I had managed to defeat the spirit and my marriage was saved. It had tormented me since I was 11 years old. You can imagine the burden that was let off my shoulder after that. Joshua was so happy that we held a big ceremony in the village to celebrate the victory. The ceremony even cost us $50,000. My story has definitely been crazy. Spirit spouses are real, and my tale was just one of many. But with determination, you can fight for your marriage and win. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the notification bell for updates. Check out other stories on our channel on the playlist, or check out how a woman had to choose between her husband and his brother by clicking this video right here. Thanks for watching. You still haven't clicked nothing? Come on, click either of them or the subscribe button.